This question highlights the difference between a scatter plot, which is a bivariate, quantitative, QQ, straight enough, no outliers, display of data. Note this in mind, we also have the univariate histogram. This can be a little bit confusing, but let's try to match this up. If you notice, the number of broken pieces, we can completely ignore batch number. Ignore this right here. We have, how many have 0 broken pieces? 1, 2, 3. And you might need to zoom in here. What I'm doing is I'm counting 1, 2, 3. Now if you notice, there are 3 batches. Look at this. Number of broken pieces. If we read across here, there are 3 batches, this one, and this one, with 0 broken pieces. That will line up with this one over here. 3 batches with 0 broken pieces. Remember, it's the leftmost that starts it. There might be other ones that line up too, but I noticed something while looking at this. When we go to 1 broken piece, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's a huge spike right here. We're just reading across this way to see how many batches, because each of these blue dots is a batch. Completely ignore batch number. Completely ignore that. We are looking at right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 have 1 broken piece right here. 1 broken piece. So when we go down here to just looking at the broken pieces there are, we have 8 with 1 broken piece. This can be a little tricky, but try doing that. Line it up and just practice right here. This doesn't really get translated to the test, but good to know a scatter plot is a bivariate display of quantitative data, and a histogram is a univariate display. Probably one of the trickiest questions on this homework right here. Describe the distribution and in the histogram. Well, this definitely has a right skew to it. Definitely. What feature of the problem is more apparent in the histogram than in the scatter plot? Well, in the histogram, we can see the skew. That's more apparent. What aspects of the company's problem is more apparent in the scatter plot? Well, as batch number increases, they are seeing that the broken pieces are actually going down. So the negative, somewhat linear. There's a little bit of a bend right here. So it's somewhat linear between batch number and broken pieces. So the earlier batches have a lot more pieces. I guess they're learning something, but we see this. This would be a very strong, somewhat linear negative relationship. So we can talk about the strength, direction, and form. Strength, strong, direction, negative, and form, linear. There's no real unusual features. Usually that's denoted by outliers. This bend is a little bit weird. Not perfectly linear, but what is? Going on to the next question here, we test our knowledge of how correlation works. So we see that this one has basically no correlation. This one has a pretty strong positive. This is probably our strongest positive. Pretty strong negative. And a positive, but it's got a little bit of a problem. So our most positive one will be B. That is the strongest positive correlation right there. We see the weakest one is over here. That's going to be the one closest to 0 for A. Apparently it is a tiny bit negative. Just a tiny bit. Can't even really tell that, but it's very close to 0. For C, we have another strong positive relationship. And then for D, we have a very strong negative relationship. Make sure you enter in your numbers correctly. Probably double check them. Easy to make a mistake right there. We definitely see a problem with this. It should just jump out to you right when you look at this. QQ straight enough, no outliers. So what do we have here? We have that the scatter plot is not linear. Linear correlation would not be appropriate. That seems to be the problem. And they go over it with you there. This is a very easy homework. Great way to get a nice and easy grade. But I want to highlight that the conditions are very important. Quantitative condition, straight enough condition, and no outliers. Outliers are things that go against the trend. This really isn't an outlier problem. It's a bend in the data. As we see over here, we have a bend in the data. Outliers aren't really exemplified that much in this assignment, or at least the version I have right now. We might be able to hit similar exercise and see one with an outlier. Let's hit show completed and see if I can get other similars. Apparently they don't want to show any with outliers. There we go. There's another. This is a great thing to talk about right here. This right here is definitely some sort of relationship in the data. It's just not linear. So the correlation for this one would be close to 0. That's linear correlation. So make sure you know things like that. A little extended learning right now for the test. You could see this, and that is correlation, linear correlation close to 0. Do we see anything else that jumps out? More bendy patterns, more U-shaped patterns, extremely strong negative linear correlation. And that's what we have going on right here. Good luck, and definitely learn this assignment and practice up.